Alright guys and girls, we're getting ready to do the heat transfer lab. The heat transfer lab has three parts: conduction, convection, which is continued on the next page here, and then radiation is the last part. So there are basically three parts to this lab, okay, three different sections: conduction, convection, and radiation. Now, before you are allowed to start the labs, for each section you have to complete with your partner the hypothesis. Okay, the hypothesis is your prediction statement. So in this case, the conduction says, the hypothesis, if we blank, so if we do blah, 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 then we predict blah, 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 blah will happen. Alright, let's take a look at the radiation section. Here's a station set up for the radiation section of the lab. Materials are a heat lamp, okay, which is suspended by a metal pole. And then to turn on the lamp and off the lamp, you simply just need to take this plug and plug it in. The other materials are two jars, one that is painted dark, either black, green, or brown, and the other that is covered in aluminum foil. Sticking out of these painted jars are thermometers. Okay, these thermometers are measured in degrees Celsius. And then the last piece of material is a stopwatch. Alright, for the radiation section of the lab, you want to predict, if we turn on the lamp, which one of these thermometers will heat up the fastest. Okay, and to do that, we have to look at the chart here, and for the colored jar and for the foil jar, you take an initial temperature, and then after 1 minute, you take your temperature again, 2, and then 3. Explain your results down here. The next section of the lab that I want to show you is the section involving conduction. Now for conduction, what you're going to have here is just a pie tin that's just here to kind of collect any mess. Inside here is just a styrofoam bowl. Please be very careful not to poke any holes in it. And then there are several sticks of varying materials on the outside. Okay, we've got the wood stick, we've got a zinc, aluminum, copper, which is that coppery color, iron. You can tell that it's iron because it has rust on it. Iron tends to rust. And then also a plastic strip. What's going to happen is I will bring to you some really hot water, which we'll put in this cup. When the hot water is in there, you're going to take all of these sticks and very carefully you're going to stick them in here inside the cup. And you'll want to spread them around a little bit so that they're not all on the same side. And then let them just sit in the hot water, and every so often kind of go around and just feel the outsides to see if you notice any change of temperature. The idea here, this is conduction lab, is to figure out which one is the heat is conducting through the fastest to the slowest. In other words, which one starts feeling warmer first versus the last one to start feeling warm. And then you have to figure out which of these two strips are actually called insulators. Okay? Again, before you do any of this, you have to do the hypothesis. If we put all of the sticks in hot water, then we predict the blank stick or blank sticks will heat up first or the fastest. Alright, the third station I want to show you is the station for convection. Now, in this station, there is a pie tin again to help you keep your mess kind of contained. There are two baby food jars. Each table also has a blue food coloring and a yellow. And then the last, well, actually two more pieces. This is just a beaker that you'll need for water. And then there are also these little squares of manila envelope, just like cards. Okay? Alright, so the first thing you're going to need to do is get some cold water into one of these baby food jars, and that's where your beaker comes into play. Okay. You just turn on the cold water in the faucet. Kind of easy, because you know how these kind of splash. Get some nice cold water in here. Make sure that it's as cold as you can get it. Alright, then we fill up one of the baby food jars with ice cold water. Once you have it full of ice cold water, just go ahead and dump out the extra. And then bring your beaker over to this station. Over here is where there will be a teacher standing, probably me, to help you get warm water. So I will pour hot water, glug, 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 into your beaker. You then take your hot water back to your station carefully and fill up your other beaker with hot water. Now, the food coloring. The one that was filled with cold water needs to be colored blue. The one that was filled with hot water needs to be colored yellow. Once your water is colored, cold, hot, the next thing you need is one of these pieces of cardboard. Okay, for the first round, you're going to start with this on top of the hot one. Okay, because that's the one we're going to end up putting on top. The blue is going to stay on the bottom. Okay, and then very carefully, and this usually works better with two hands. I'm going to make a huge mess here. But you flip the yellow upside down so that it's on top of the blue. Really carefully. As you can see, I've successfully flipped it up on its end. Now what I want to do is carefully look to see that the two jars are aligned as closely as possible. And then I'm actually going to very carefully slide this. Alright, as you can see, I have successfully gotten my card out from between the two baby food jars. Now, mine kind of worked funny because I actually was using two cold waters, but you might have a similar or a very different reaction when you do it, making sure that you have the cold, this used to be blue, on the bottom, and the warm on the top. Once you have successfully done that, you go to your sheet and record your results, what happened when the cold was on the bottom, and then the next one says describe what happens when the hot was on the bottom. You do the entire experiment again, except for this time, when you flip the jars, make sure that the hot one, the yellow one, is on the bottom, and the blue one gets flipped on top of it.